Hey everyone, I'm Jay and I do stuff, and this is part 2 of this episode of Dumping Thoughts. This is basically the part where I completely shill out my own Kirby fan series. For as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to make my own Kirby stories. Though I didn't want to make them in typical fanfiction fashion and just type them all out. That'd be boring and wouldn't stand out from everyone else. Plus, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to just sit there reading a wall of text all the time. So for the longest time, I opted to make comics out of my stories. And to be honest, those were very strenuous and hard to make on a consistent basis. Especially since at the time, I was trying to mimic the official Kirby art style, not to mention I was pretty bad at backgrounds and had a very tedious way of making those smooth or digitalized lines. It wasn't until a year or two ago where I decided to make my stories more storybook-based. Basically, I'd make entire pictures detailing scenes from the story. As a result, this process was much easier to maintain for me, especially since I now had a tablet to draw digitally on, and also I've developed my own more simplistic art style. It's not easy making all these on a regular basis, but it's definitely not as strenuous as my old method of making comics. It wouldn't be until earlier last year that I realized, hey, I can make a video series out of this. I'd already completed 5 stories at that point, so I figured I'd go for it. For this, I would mostly take inspiration from that educational Kirby video I mentioned in part 1. Have it be more slideshow based, but with more dynamic camera angles and zoom effects to give it the feeling of being animated. I did take a couple animation classes back in junior high. I made a flipbook Kirby animation, and a stop-motion animation about this giant mouth eating everything. But since then, those animations I made have been lost in time. Making those animations were pretty tough and time-consuming, so I probably wouldn't be able to even have 5 episodes in such a short time. I'm only one guy after all, so I feel that this slideshow style would be the best overall option. Now I think would be a good time to talk about what my Kirby series is actually about. You probably waited more than long enough now. I've touched on this in my Kirby voice tryouts video a while back, but I'll gladly go over it again. My series is called Kirby's Adventures in Dreamland. It's a series of short stories about Kirby going around having these misadventures and getting into trouble with his friends. Remember when Deke Entertainment was still alive and didn't make stupid educational crap and made, for the most part, pretty decent video game shows like the Super Mario Bros. Super Show and Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog? Imagine if Deke made a Kirby cartoon in a similar fashion. That would pretty much be what Adventures in Dreamland would be. Kinda. In terms of context for the series itself, this takes place in the universe of the games. So there'll be no more bossy, nagged know-it-alls, and there'll be a variety of character species other than making everyone a cappy. Fanfictions are obviously never canon, but here I try to make things as close to canon as I can. Adventures in Dreamland takes place after all current Kirby games. Or at least in between more recent games, when Dreamland isn't being attacked by some godlike cataclysmic force. Mostly what you don't see on Kirby's more peaceful days off. Also, Kirby actually talks in my series. I know that goes against Sakurai's wishes, but Sakurai isn't here now, is he? I feel that this, plus more focus, makes Kirby more prominent as the main character. So far, Kirby stars in all current 5 episodes. The tone of my series is very lighthearted and silly. Most fanfics typically are more dark and serious in tone, but I tend to mostly veer away from that sort of storytelling. I'm not completely against darker stories, nor am I saying that those types of stories are bad. I just like to stand out from the crowd. Another thing I should mention is that all the main characters in the series are not fan characters. Most fanfiction either stars or has some of the main characters be completely original. I know that some fan characters can be done right, given a lot of thought and writing, but for the most part, fan characters are mostly written as perfect family members of canon characters, or are there just for the sole purpose of being shipped with a canon character. Kirby's Adventures in Dreamland has none of that. The only characters that even come close to being fan characters are either very minor or only appear once in an episode. Most of these characters are just regular Kirby enemies in some sort of attire or position, like a play director. Also, there is no romance in this series. So overall, this fan series, if you will play it pretty safe as far as other fan series goes. It generally plays out like a Saturday morning cartoon. No serious plot points or anything. Not even some specific formula, as in doing some sort of subject and ending it off with a shoehorned Monster of the Week battle. Just Kirby going on a regular daily basis. I'd also like to touch on and expand upon more taken for granted Kirby characters like Wispy Woods, Kracko, Lololo, and La La La. Being a full video series, that means I need people to help voice the characters. I've got a few people on the project already, but there's always room for more. I've already posted like 2 videos talking about voice actors. I'm not really sure how I can get more of them though. Like, I know there are freelance voice actors here on YouTube, but I feel like my project is too small for them to even consider. I am only a very small channel, barely nicking 50 subscribers. Not that it should really matter, but I'd just like as many people to see my series as I can, that's all. Perhaps if this series does well enough down the road, I can stir up more attention. If you are interested in voicing some of the characters though, my email is in the description of the video. If the quality of your acting and your mic are both good enough, I'll send you an invite to the private Discord server for all the people involved in the project. Currently, my plan is to have the first 5 episodes completed either by this summer or by September. Then I'm thinking of premiering each episode every Saturday morning for as long as how many episodes I have. Which would be 5. I hope I was able to explain my series somewhat decently for you to understand. I honestly can't wait to finish these and upload them. I think this will be good practice for me if I ever want to score a career in the cartoon industry in the future. And hopefully good exposure for my voice actors too. So until I can hopefully get the first episode out, I'll see you then.